Me and you were talking about what's some of the big takeaways we know that wheat crop needs every year.
Well, and so I think we talked about this a lot on one of our other podcasts, is that we want to look at potassium. We always want to follow potassium, and of course nitrogen is always a really big deal in it. But I think when we get to look at the micronutrients and boron and other things like that, I think as we start to look at those things, we really need to pay attention to that.
Yeah, and I thought another big takeaway we always took was the sulfur, keeping that sulfur level up, help keep that ratio right, stuff like that to the N ratio.
Yep.
It's a grass crop, right? So that's been our big takeaway, is kind of start with the basics like we normally would and build on there. And I know in this competition, we threw all kinds of things at it. I kept it simple. Some of the other guys kind of went out on a limb there, didn't they?
We did. I think you and I did a really good job of keeping it simple, more along the lines of what we would normally do, right? The rest of them, we did focus a lot on micronutrients. There's some other things. I think a few guys maybe actually put some phosphorus in and some other things like that. So there's a lot of different ways, but I think when we get down in the south, there's a few that we really just have to pound in on, and everything down here is a potassium hog anyway. So,
you know, potassium is a big one that we always had to face. The late season is always easy to put it out at the right timings. You know, this year we're doing these trials, and you always want to pick out something that's easy and lays out good. And I decided to do 2 blocks, and I'm thankful I did. One block, the original block, I took out by hail pretty hard. And you could actually see in the yield data that dinged it off, you know, 10, 15 bushel. I think we'd had a lot better wheat crop, but we had a tremendous amount of rain. And I think that's where doing these late season applications really pays off, because you're not front loading it all. You're spoon feeding it throughout the year, putting out the nutrients you need. And hopefully we'll get some good takeaways from this.
Yeah, and most of the time with the applications, I think we're going out when you're doing something else, maybe a herbicide or insecticide or fungicide or something like that. So being able to foliar feed that and having a product that actually gets down into the leaf and actually gets those into the system. So I think what we did was a really good job. I'd like to see how it pays off at the end. There was, I think, 3, maybe 4 trials that we did with AgroLiquid. So I want to see where those end up. But yeah, I think just in the south, I think we pretty much got it banged in. You know, we're going to put some dry out, and then we're going to kind of foliar feed and do some spoon feeding. I always love that, because that's the best way to do it.
I think the biggest thing about trials and competitions like we're doing is what you learn from it.
Yep.
What matters, what actually increases that yield, and then always keep that ROI in the background too.
100%.